Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, y'all. It is good to be back for another episode. We are so far so good on track with getting episodes out. For the past 4 consecutive episode days, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays are going to be the days that we're going to be uploading in here and getting things rocking and rolling for you guys. And you'll see these YouTube episodes of the podcast come out a little bit more less frequent, just because for our editing team to get 3 podcast episodes plus YouTube videos plus some of our short form content out is a little bit demanding. So not as many podcasts, but you will have them. YouTube video podcasts. Yes.
I think we're a bit slow today. We had a full recovery day yesterday, but I almost feel like I could have used 2 recovery days.
We could have. Yeah.
It was Mason's birthday, his 28th.
28, baby.
Yeah, we just celebrated by going out to a nice dinner with our friends here in Houston. And then we ended up going out and staying out a lot later than we usually do. And then we even expected, and drank quite a bit because, you know, it's his birthday and we know people there and they're giving us shots. And so one thing led to another. I ended up pretty much yakking in the bathroom.
I luckily did not. Did not.
Birthday boy didn't. Yeah, that was good. So anyway, we spent all day yesterday recovering, and we were, as much fun as it was, we were reminded of why it's pretty much like should be an annual thing for us to go out to that extent. So anyway, today's a new day.
Today is a new day.
We're actually off to Tulum on Wednesday.
Yeah. So shortened week, at least being in Houston for us. So usually these 2 days that we're here, we're trying to cram as much as we can in, just so we can get as much stuff done, because it is a family trip. It's not a trip just for Audrey and I. You know, we'll be spending a little bit more time with the family, doing things, activities, and don't want it to feel like we're always being clogged up by work when we're trying to, you know, spend time with family as well.
Yeah. We are bringing to you guys today a little bit of a different topic, in the sense where we're not talking about how to lose body fat, how to build muscle, how to balance your hormones or fix your gut. We are talking a little bit more about a topic that is near and dear to us. And I know so many people struggle with this. And I think it is definitely talked about a lot, but I think it can't be talked about enough.
Yeah.
And that is anxiety.
Anxiety.
That's all we have to say about it. It's something that, and we'll each kind of talk about how we struggle with it, because there's so many different types of anxiety and different ways that it comes out in people. And Mason and I struggle with it quite a bit. And I would say like pretty severely, not debilitating, but pretty severely. And I try and talk about it on my stories, but it's interesting because even though we both struggle with it quite a bit, we struggle with different things in different scenarios that it's triggered. So
yeah, I guess I'll kick things off and, you know, start to just get right into the thick of it. So like Audrey said, we both experience anxiety in different shapes and forms. For me, I've always kind of had it. You know, I really started to notice it when I was kind of getting out of high school into my early years of college. Didn't really know what it was at first, but there would be these weird scenarios that would happen for me where I was always a very social kid, very social, would come up, say hello to everybody. But there was always these like weird scenarios that sometimes happen where I would feel anxious, like in a social interaction. Maybe it was with someone I wasn't really super comfortable with, like maybe a girl or whatever it may be. And over time, things just started to manifest even further. There was like one time where I was standing in line. I remember it, you know, it's clear as day, going to get food at our local cafeteria in college. It was like winter time, a few months into college at this point. So this anxiety hadn't really manifested fully yet. So it's kind of fine. And I was just standing in line with people, and I was wearing a jacket, and I was getting hot. I was getting really warm. At this point, almost like sweating in line. But it, you know, when you go from cold to hot in somewhere, you got winter clothes, you are naturally warm. But I started to think about it more and worry about it more and stress about it more. And then like, I remember I took my jacket off, sat down in a chair, walked back in line. It was somewhat okay to go get food. But then since that point, like more and more interactions started to build, started like grow into this thing, to a point where majority of social interactions with newer people or people that I saw above me, or even just like girls for whatever reason at the time, was super stressful and anxiety ridden, because I didn't want to like break out in sweats in front of people, because that'd be like obviously embarrassing, right? So like I would always manifest or think about and always look into the future of like, what if that happens? So that's kind of where my anxiety started, and I'll stop there.
Yeah.
So I can obviously go on forever.
Well, and yours is more related to kind of a bit of social anxiety,
right?
In a way. And I think a lot of people really struggle with that. And I think it's important that we like tell you guys maybe what anxiety we kind of deal with, to just share our story, and perhaps you might relate to it. And maybe you found yourself anxious for either reason. And I'll explain when I tend to feel anxious. But then we're also going to talk about ways that we try and manage it. So we're not just going to sit here and
gotta lay the groundwork here first.
Yeah. Give you guys some context. I put on Mason's deodorant.
Smells pretty good.
I put it on just now and it's very potent. My anxiety has never been anything that I can pinpoint, but I've had it since I was probably like literally as long as I can remember. My parents knew I was just like a very anxious kid, but I wasn't anxious in the sense of social anxiety or honestly, like even getting stressed about work or anything like that. Of course I get stressed, but I was never anxious about like things that I had to do or anything like that. My anxiety just was like this looming dark feeling that I am unsafe, but it actually only happens at night, which is super interesting. But I can remember if everybody went to bed and I thought I was the only one up, or I even anticipated that I would be the only one up, I would get so anxious to the point where I would throw up from the anxiety and I would have to run into the bathroom and I would be like gagging over the toilet as little as like being 8 years old. And one time the big flare ups for me used to be travel. And now we travel all the time. And it's really awesome that I don't struggle with it as much. And it's had a flare up recently, which is why we're talking about it. But it's just a very interesting feeling because I thought I outgrew it, right? It's like almost childish to feel unsafe when it turns dark. And it's nothing that I can rationalize. It's not like I'm worried that somebody's going to come in with a gun or somebody's going to come take me or there's a ghost. Like there's nothing that I can logically think about that is freaking me out. It's just this like heart fluttering, really like warm nausea, stomach, like just all these feelings. And just feeling so alert. Like it could be midnight and I'll get an anxiety attack and I'm just like, there's no way I can go to bed. So all that to say, I thought I outgrew it. And as I got older, I didn't have any issues with it. And then it started to come back around recently, which was so strange because I've had anxiety in different ways or stressful moments, but I haven't felt the childhood anxiety that I had that is uncontrollable, very extreme, very debilitating, affects pretty much every aspect of my life. And it came back around. And it came back around just as strong as it was when I was a child. So that was like probably 8 weeks ago or so. And we had both had a pretty bad flare up in our anxiety.
Yeah. And so like mine coming from where I was in school, it stayed and kind of in that same area pretty much up until deal with it even still nowadays. But obviously things have gotten a lot different because I've almost put my foot on the gas to be putting myself in those positions constantly to where sure, I feel the emotions, I feel the anxiety, but I continuously keep doing it. And obviously more repetition. In most cases, when I do the things that scare me the most, I'm able to manage them fine, right? With most anxiety, just thinking about the future that hasn't even come yet, right? If we want to just break things down, I'd experience it and would have those feelings of social anxiety-ness, up until majority of my life. And I would go through probably majority of situations where I might have it leading up to, and then be prepared and be ready and just like would crush the interactions or would feel fine in the moments or whatever I was doing. But for me, kind of even really within the last 3 months since like end of June, early July, experiencing a lot of anxiety, just more generalized from a sense where it wasn't like acute stuff, but then it kind of turned into like me working throughout the day, waking up and just having it, trying to film content and having it, trying to jump on my stories and talk more and having it more, or over analyzing like text messages I'm sending to people. Like I've just been in this overthinking phase like the past 3 months, just from like things got super busy. We added more responsibilities to our business, and which also arose thoughts like, am I good enough to be in this position? Am I able and capable to have the skills to grow? And now there's more going on, and like, all these feelings can really bog you down. And I'm sure these are things we all experience no matter what we're doing, but that's kind of where mine started to formulate in the past 3 months as well too. But like, I'm so empathetic where if Audrey's feeling a certain way, and like when Audrey's like, oh my God, like I have so much anxiety, I literally can't do this, I want to be home, like I can't, like, I feel it. So like, then like, I feel like, oh wow, I can like almost feel, I can feel her, that she feels like out of alignment, and that makes me feel weird and almost like out of alignment, and like that anxious like feeling, and like I can feel like the way that she feels, but I wouldn't say that's what allowed me to start being more anxious too. There's other things that happened along the way, but it was just in the certain periods of time and things that just started to formulate, feeling more of that generalized anxiety the past 3 months. But for me, it was even more enhanced and different because things that I had been doing where I hadn't been feeling anxious for, I started feeling anxious for. But this is like after I'd built up the confidence of being on social media, talking, doing my content, crushing, flipping the camera on and going, and then me doing it and then like overthinking it. Fuck, I can't talk. Fuck, my voice feels weird. Like all these things starting to bog me down. Now here we are 3 months later. Obviously, feeling better, but I can still sense some of that anxiety is there. But it was just a weird moment to feel it come through, because when it does, and I'm sure if you have anxiety or you deal with any kind of depression or whatever, when it like comes through for the first time and it's new and it's different, it almost feels like, fuck, am I going to be with this forever? Is this like how things are going to be? So a lot of those emotions and stuff came through.
Yeah, it's the typical thinking about anxiety is causing you anxiety. Yeah. And it's funny because I literally think that's where mine stems from. And you talked about how you can kind of feel my energy and my anxiousness. And when Mason is anxious, even though it's a different type of anxious, I think about anxiety. And so sometimes I will start to feel more anxious because I'm thinking about anxiety. So it's just really like our thoughts are just so powerful. And it's one thing to understand that the anxiety isn't real and it's the thoughts made up in your head. But when it's very difficult for you to actually control, it's just scary. And then you can start to spiral. And I know that certainly happens for me when I'm laying down in bed and all of a sudden, like I start to feel that really, really dark energy and that really strong anxiety come on. And I feel very helpless. Like I genuinely don't know what to do. And oftentimes I'm trying to think about things that are familiar to me, things that feel safe to me. So it could be like, being on a beach. It could be being with Mason doing something. And oftentimes actually thinking about work really helps me because it feels grounding and it feels familiar. Like I work every day. So thinking about work and what I have to do for work actually calms me down, surprisingly, because my anxiety is like everything feels unfamiliar and unsafe and foreign. So I could be looking at Mason and like not really feel like I'm looking at Mason. It sounds very strange. And all of my environment, even though I've seen it a million times, it feels like I'm in a dream and that it's not really my environment. It's a very interesting thing. And I've actually looked into it. And I think it's a form of coping and dissociating from your environment. And that's how you're dealing with your anxiety. Yeah, it's tough, right? Like I think for both of us, we have to show up every day and perform and show up for our team. And when sometimes it's difficult to show up for yourself, it just can feel heavy.
Yep.
Very heavy. I guess we can talk a little bit more about what we do in those scenarios or what we've found has helped us in those moments. But before we do, a quick little story. When I was in Cabo is the first time I had experienced an anxiety attack since I was young. Like probably I started to outgrow it when I was like 18 or 19. So not that young, but the first time since I was 18 or 19, I'm almost 25. I was in Cabo for a girls' trip and I am like sitting there watching TV. My heart feels like it's 180 and I'm sitting there doing nothing. I couldn't eat. I felt nauseous. My face felt really flush. And then everything just kind of becomes blurry almost. And I was looking around at my best friends sitting on the couch and they all felt unfamiliar. Like I felt unsafe in Cabo and I wanted to go home so bad. Like that felt like the only answer. I called Mason. I'm crying. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Do I like find a flight home? It's late right now. It was so scary. Like being out of control of your environment and out of control of your own thoughts. I can't think of anything scarier than that. So yeah, just another scenario because I think there's a lot of people that can relate. And I think it's always good that people share like specific forms of anxiety because I've always felt very alone. Like nobody understands it, so I think it's always good to share.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's probably also, reassuring for some of you guys to like hear out there, like we're not huge influencers or people on social media by any means. Some of you might say like, yeah, you are, like, because we have that, we just don't perceive it that way, right? There's people that are way bigger than us, but I think it's cool for you guys to kind of hear and see that people that put their lives on social media, show up on camera, like, think that we don't deal with any sort of things underlying, or we don't have the same struggles you do, or we don't feel the same emotions or anxieties or depression, like whatever it is, but like we do. And, I'd even go to bet that we probably experience it even more than somebody who isn't really putting their lives out there in that way or taking on a whole lot, right? So I know we all deal and experience with a lot of stuff, but I wouldn't be feeling like, I know for a fact, I wouldn't be feeling the way that I felt or the anxieties or all these emotions that I felt. Like I know the past 3 months have been more acute, but even before then, even the past years leading up, if I didn't start my business, if I didn't want to start to go on social media, like a kid with social anxiety from college, jumping on social media, creating videos, trying to help people, trying to grow a business that I know nothing about how to create business like years ago before I learned everything. It's like, as soon as you start tapping into more of what's out there and like maybe more of your passion, switching routes from like maybe the traditional of what you were doing or what you thought was going to be for you into something that's completely new, but like you want to do it, like that change of whatever it is for you will always bring up like those emotions, and they're going to be more intense. But even though we're talking about that and how intense it might be, and even though that might seem like scary, it's so much more worth it to go through those experiences and have those, because ultimately kind of molds you into even more of a better person than you already are.
Yeah. And I also think that like not going after what it is that you want because you're scared and it causes feelings of anxiety is doing such a disservice. It's like, just start to try and work through the anxiety. You know, it's, you have to be courageous. Courageous is not doing the things that scare you. It's doing the things that scare you despite being scared, you know? Right. So I think you have to find that courage, or you settle for a mediocre life that is comfortable because you are afraid to take that leap or do whatever it is that might be causing you that anxiety. What would you say have been, if you could narrow it down, like your top things that help you either in the moment or in general?
Yeah. So, I mean, some things that help me in the moment is obviously breath work and breathing and deep breaths in and out into my belly, allowing just to take deep breaths. I think that's like the simplest thing to do in the moment, like fast, quick hitter, like do that. You know, there's other kind of strategies that people will say, like, you know, look for the color red or look for 5, you know, blue things. And that helps as well too.
Helps me a lot.
Yeah. I don't do that too often. I found this guy's podcast called The Anxiety Guy. I was experiencing some more anxiety about like a year and a half ago, pretty intensely when Audrey and I first moved in together. But like there's a saying that this guy talks about is like, anxiety is just the release of fear, but also like it's okay that you have your anxiety, and it's okay to just like bring it with you for the day. I think what we resist persists, and especially when you're trying to resist your anxiety so bad, like, oh fuck, like why is this happening? Why me? Why right now? Oh my God. Like what happens when you do that, right? It gets more intense and it stays around longer, and it blah, 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 right? So when we can just realize that, like, okay, you know what? I'm cool with it. You know, my anxiety can be with me. I can be friends with it, because it's just like, it's, you know, your anxiety in more of an in-depth way is just, you know, your ego knocking on the door to let you know that like, hey, I don't want you to change. I don't want you to do these new things. These are scary. This, you know, you shouldn't be doing this because you're not that type of person. Like that's where anxiety is going to stem from a lot of like areas. And I know yours is different. But if we try to just resist it, it's going to continue to be very acute. But the more you can feel it and just be aware of it and just recognize it and be okay with it and just let it take its course and not try to fight it. I have found that, especially within the past few months or even since when I've had it, be the best sort of thing for me in those moments, along with deep breaths, along with some affirmations. You know, I have sticky notes placed up all around my room just to, you know, as reminders for myself, like around what I want to do, who I want to be, how I want to grow, all that stuff. So there's, and I, you know, I'm giving you guys a few things. You might be like, what the hell? Like, how does that help you? Like, you know,
I think that's important.
Yeah. And I think everybody has different things that work for them, because I think we all experience it in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I wanted to ask you, because, you know, you have a different form of anxiety than I do. And even if we had the same triggers for anxiety, you might have a different way that works for you to cope. So I think it's good that at the end of the day, we're not experts in anxiety or healing anxiety or anything. We just genuinely wanted to share our story. And I think it is important, like Mason said, to show you guys that we're very real humans. Everybody struggles with this stuff. And so you're definitely not alone in that. So that was, you know, obviously partly why we wanted to do this. And then just sharing what we feel has worked for us. I still feel like I'm figuring it out, and I definitely want to do some like deep inner child healing, because I know that that's where it stemmed from. But in the meantime, what I have found that works in the moment, what's difficult is when everybody's asleep. And what I feel like sometimes I need is for somebody to be up with me and just like talking, or just like, but knowing that they're not up just for me, because then I'm afraid that I'm just keeping them up and they're exhausted and they're going to fall back asleep. But like, I always feel better when I know people are just like up. So if I can hear, I used to love when I could hear my parents talking in the family room, because I knew that they were still up, and I would pass out like a light. Or if I watched TV, it would help to distract me at night. I know what is a temporary fix, which is like distracting myself, right? And it's like putting on TV to quiet my thoughts and to like just listen to the TV and watch it, because I just kind of stop thinking about the anxiety. So that tends to help in the moment. But one thing that like completely I felt had almost healed my anxiety, and as I look back, I'm like, no, I never truly healed it. It just helped, was working out. Like I started to notice when I would go to the gym and I would get my heart rate up, it just allowed me to sleep better at night, and it allowed me to like get out that energy. And that's really why I was able to stay so consistent, because I truly noticed a difference when I wasn't working out in my levels of anxiety peaking. I remember like going on the stairs and feeling my heart rate being so high and being like, oh, I feel this same extreme, like rapid heart rate when I have anxiety, only this is like a good form. So it almost made me like normalize that feeling of the thumping in my chest being so rapid and feeling scared. Like I associate it with anxiety, but when I was working out, it was a good thing. So that definitely really helped me a lot. And I think in general, just talking it out, like for me, it's like explaining my fears and knowing that whether or not I can rationalize them, they're valid, and it's okay to feel that anxiety. And that at the end of the day, like I know I'm going to be safe. I know I'm going to be okay. I just have to work through it.
Yeah. Can't believe I didn't bring this up, but majority of the reason why like I do what I do now today is, granted, I always was into exercising, training, wasn't as much going into college. It was just part of me for sports. But the reason why I started getting more into training, when I was like 18, going on 19 years old was when things really started going in that direction, was because of my anxiety as well too. It was the one place, living on a college campus, I felt like I could just like go be around people, but like plug my headphones in. I didn't have to like worry about anything. I was just doing my thing, but also I was training, listening to music, and just working on myself. I think those are the best things you can do just from a baseline. Like if you have anxiety, something you deal with, like just work on yourself, right? And that doesn't have to be in the gym. That could be you reading books, right? Educating yourself on a skill, learning something new, freaking building a car, right? If your thing is like getting and being crafty or in whatever way, right? Painting, whatever it is. No, if you can work on yourself in a sense or do things as an outlet, right? Our outlet was physical activity, working on our bodies, progressing, right? Which also just made us feel good throughout the day as well, too. I think everybody needs to tie into something, right? Most people, I think that let it be crippling to them, don't have at least one or two things that they can do consistently each day. They can kind of, not that you're escaping, but, kind of an escape, like some place you can just go and be within your own thoughts, and you don't need any external factors to be involved for you to do that activity. I think that is super, super critical for anybody, regardless, even if you have anything going on with you. If you want to be a motivated, driven person and you want to, do something truly awesome with your life, whatever that looks like, I think, having those times of each day for you to work on yourself in any capacity is super important.
Yeah. You need to have like that grounding, that thing that like grounds you and is kind of like your safe space, your go-to thing. And exercise, I think for anybody is a great form of stress release and releasing some anxiety. So
100%.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening into this podcast, because like I said, we all struggle with it. And sometimes I think both of us, it can be hard to really admit to, especially publicly, because we run this business and we are very strong-minded and this entrepreneur, and we have to show up for a team of 15 and 220 plus clients. And it feels like, well, if they know that I'm struggling with anxiety, are they going to think that I'm weak or that I can't show up for them or that I can't show up for the business? And at the end of the day, I'm going to show up regardless. And so are you. And so sometimes it's scary to admit that, not because I don't want people to know, but I don't want people to think that it's going to negatively impact them, if that makes sense. So, but I also, again, we have a platform, we do have an influence, and we do have a voice, and we're so grateful for that voice because we can share our story in hopes that it helps one of you, at least one of you.
So thank you guys for tuning in. One thing we want to start asking of you guys, if you enjoyed these podcasts, go ahead, drop us a review on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this at, and let us know how much you like the podcast. Drop us a review, an honest one. And we're just trying to grow this sucker and get some more exposure to the podcast. So share it, drop a review. Even just reach out to us on social media if anything really lands with you and you want to ask us any questions.
We'll
rip it from there.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, y'all.